The bloody Falcons. The Jets went to London and seemed to still be asleep in the first half. Zach Wilson had a bad day, and Gang Green lost 27-20, falling to 1-4 on this lowly season thus far. What is going wrong with the Jets early in games? Should fans be concerned with the rookie QB and the offensive struggles? We'll chat about the state of the team heading into their bye week with the post Mark Cannizzaro. Have some tea and crumpets and commiserate with us next on Gangs All Here from the New York Post. If you also live and breathe sports, you're going to love Post Sports Plus, a new sports membership experience from your favorite Post columnists, writers, and editors. Sports Plus brings you extra premium content and more insights into the teams you love from the experts you trust, alongside a community of fans just as passionate as you are. It's coverage you've never seen the Post do before and introducing new ways for you to hear directly from sports writers, experts, and get your questions answered. Try it risk-free with a 30 days free trial. Sign up at nypost.com/getsportsplus.
You play to win the game.
Welcome back to Gangs All Here, our Jets podcast from the New York Post. It's Jake Brown alongside Brian Costello across the pond. I'm here in Astoria, Queens. Kaz is over in London. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating, write a nice review. Subscribe to Post Sports Plus. First 30 days free. Mark Cannizzaro will join us for the first time this season in a little bit. But Kaz, Zach Wilson progressed, and then he regressed when he went over to the other side of the country. And really the story with this one, Jets lose again, 27-20, fall to 1-4 in the season. Slow starts, 75-13. They've been outscored in the first half. They've been outscored 30-0 in the first quarter this season. They're just doing things too late in the game. You know, a few of these games, they've put up some magic in the fourth quarter, but it's just been too late. And something's got to be said, Kaz, for these brutal starts. You can't not score in the first quarter ever and expect to win football games.
Yeah, Jake, 79 total yards through 5 games in the first quarter. So they're averaging 15.8 yards in the first quarter. Like, you just can't, you can't win like that. And they're playing from behind. They're always playing from behind. You know, they had a lead in the Titans game for a little while, and that's it. Everything else they've been trailing. And when you're playing from behind, that affects your play calling on both offense and defense, and it affects how the other team attacks you. Once the Falcons are up 17-0, they can be a lot more aggressive on defense, Jake. They're not worried if they give up a big play, like, all right, we're still out of lead. So it just changes everything. They have to figure out a way to start fast. And I think that's all they're going to be doing during this bye week, Jake, is trying to figure it out. And it's just so weird to me because team script, you know, we all know the team script the first 15 plays or whatever, right? So they practice those plays over and over and over. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They go over those plays. That should be the best series you play. And like, if it doesn't happen in one game, okay. But 5 straight games now to have nothing out of these drives is just crazy. Because even, you think about the Adam Gase offense, Jake, plenty of things to rip Adam Gase's offense about. They actually were pretty good at the beginning of games. Then they would fade. They were the opposite of this offense. So they have to figure this out. The guys say it's not preparation. They feel prepared. They're excited for the game. Excited for the game plan, but it's just not happening, Jake. They just look, it looks terrible, and it looks like, they look like they were out-coached today early. Now, I thought the adjustments were good, and they came back, but early on, the Falcons own them.
The game plan's got to change. I mean, you got to mix it up. Do something different in the first quarter. Put your socks on different before the game. Eat something different before the game. I don't know, because it ain't working. And, there's encouraging signs that happen later on, which make it that much more frustrating. And it's hard to knock the defense in the first half when they're on the field, Kaz, so much. We talk about time of possession, nearly 36 minutes to 24. The plays were 75-52. The Falcons just dominated the stats. I mean, the Jets were lucky to finish within 7. Obviously, it took that garbage time field goal, which I know excited a lot of over bettors. I stayed away from betting on this game, but that did hit the over. But the yards, 450 to 230. Matt Ryan, 342 to Zach Wilson's 192, which, again, a lot of garbage time yards. The rushing, everything favored the Falcons across the stats, across the game. It was a rough watch. I mean, the first half, I was out Saturday night, so I was in Struggle City on Sunday morning, and I was struggling even more trying to get through that first half. It was a rough watch. The game felt over. It was nice to see them show some life, and the story of Sunday in football was missed extra points. Amendola misses an extra point, but I mean, there's encouraging signs. You forced 2 fumbles, you forced 2 turnovers. We talked about on the last show the defense has got to start doing that, but that also tells you without those 2 fumbles, this game could have been a 3 touchdown game, because they were, I think, in the red zone for either both, or one of them they were, and the other they were in field goal range.
Yeah, here's the thing, Jake. I get what you're saying. Defense is on the field a long time. They were on the field a long time last week. 100 snaps against the Titans. Those guys were probably dragging. However, the Falcons are not a good team, and the Falcons did not have their top 2 wide receivers with Ridley and Gage out. So, when you looked at it coming into this game, you're like, okay, what are the Falcons going to do? They're going to give the ball to Cordell Patterson a lot. They're going to try to throw to Kyle Pitts a lot. If I know that, and you know that, Robert Saleh knew that, and Jeff Ulbrich knew that, they had to come out of this game in the beginning of this game and make sure those 2 guys did not kill them, right? Make Matt Ryan go to anyone else. And if one of these other receivers we've never heard of has a big game, that's so be it. That's football. But it's coaching when you can see it coming and it happens. And they did nothing early on against Pitts and Patterson. Now they adjusted. They did a good job adjusting, but Arthur Smith had it dialed up early on and really beat them. And the defense has been good this year, but that was not a good performance on Sunday. They just they got killed early by those 2 guys, and yes, they came back and made the game, but the Falcons are the Falcons for a reason. It was like I was walking out with D. Orlando Ledbetter, who's covered the Falcons forever for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and he said, he's like, the Falcons tried to be the Falcons and blow that game, right? That's what they're known for, is blowing leads, and they blew a lead last week against Washington. We all remember the Super Bowl. It was funny, the last time they were in London, they blew a lead against the Lions, so they tried, but they couldn't quite do it. And the other thing I would say on the defense, Jake, is things did turn around, and the Jets cut it to 3. They needed one more stop, and Matt Ryan went right down the field on them, and 2 big third down conversions, one a 3rd and 13, scores the touchdown and puts the game away. So the offense is still the number one problem with this team, but the defense doesn't get off scot-free in this one either.
Yeah, and look, the offense, we had a Denzel Mims sighting. It was like a miracle. It leads to a touchdown. I mean, just find him. Get him the ball. I know you were excited when he got the ball, but once again, doesn't get it enough. I mean, this poor guy just can't get enough targets, guys.
Yeah, 3 targets, I think, 2 catches, right? Because there's one that sailed over his head to the sideline, and the other 2 catches. Yeah, and now they had 6 receivers active for this game, Jake, which is not usual, and I don't know if they can keep doing that. That at some point the numbers are going to have to come down. And if Jeff Smith comes back, what happens? We heard that he's the greatest special teams player in the history of the NFL when they were talking about him a few weeks ago. So what happens then? But yeah, Mims produced when they threw to him, 2 catches, and the one was a huge catch on that drive, like you said. So, maybe that Mims story will go away for a little while, but I'm not sure.
Just find him deep. I mean, they finally were throwing it deep late in the game, and it was fun to watch. I mean, Wilson, I was like, where was this for this first, 2 quarters? And it was set up by the Tevin Coleman kick return in the second half that got him going. But it seems like they wait too long to get the action.
Well, watching in the stadium, they called some shot plays, and he looked downfield and it was covered, and then he went underneath. There were a few of those where he took, and that's what they want him to do. And he took underneath. He didn't force the throws. So they called them. You could see it. And you could see him looking downfield on some of them, and just it wasn't there. So you got to give the Falcons some credit. They play a deep cover 2, which it's hard to throw deep on that defense. But some of the play calls just make me scratch my head. 2nd and 5, and you throw it, and they kind of had some momentum, and he throws it 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage to Jamison Crowder, who gets blown up. That one drove me crazy. And then, but a lot of this is on Zach too, Jake. And you talk about his throwing deep. How about you complete a pass when Crowder's out wide open in the flat, and just hit him, and that would have been a huge gain in the red zone. Might have been a touchdown. There was so much room for him to run. Then he hits Morgan Moses in the back of the head with the ball on the screen. His throws, his accuracy is troubling sometimes, and Saleh said it's fundamentals, and he's not doing some things right, but they got to work on that too and get that fixed.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to complete the boring plays. You play boring football. Well, you got to complete the screens, the guys wide open, the 2-yard passes, all these dump balls. You got to complete those. And when those don't work out, you're setting yourself up for disaster. It's frustrating because I think a lot of Jets fans came to this week so hyped up about what they saw. They said, you know what, we got the Falcons on the schedule.
Too hyped up, Jake. Too hyped,
yeah. I mean, it might have just been the Titans being terrible.
Well, that was a very, very, very weird game that they won against the Titans. I think we talked about last week. The Titans had 33 more plays than the Jets, and they didn't turn the ball over, and the Jets still won. That was a very weird game. It's like the odds of winning that game are so small. So I think people got a little too excited from that. And, Zach made 2 great deep throws in that game, and he made some other good throws, but it wasn't like the offense was rolling in that game like I think people wanted to believe after that. And we saw that on Sunday against the Falcons, and now they get a week off, and then the Patriots and the and the Bengals, and so they've got some games coming up where they're going to get tested again.
Yeah, and we said the secondary is going to struggle against good quarter. I mean, I put Matt Ryan in a pretty good category. I know he didn't have his top 2 receivers, but I guess you put Tannehill in that category, and they won that game. But this was a real test against, I mean, I'd call him a future Hall of Fame quarterback in Matt Ryan, and, he exposed that secondary.
I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but he's a good quarterback, and he's a veteran quarterback, Jake. And when, you give him time to prepare, and he could, I think what they saw against Tannehill last week with the 7 sacks probably made Matt Ryan and Arthur Smith say, okay, we are getting the ball out fast. And he did. And it's something, Jake, I was thinking about this, where we were, this is my favorite stadium I've ever been to. It was unbelievable. And the press, it's not really a press box in England. It's you're outside. We're in the stands. And we were low. It was incredible. That they don't sell these tickets for a lot of money and they give them to the press here. It's just crazy. So we were low, and it's just a different view of the game. And you could see, Matt Ryan would throw the ball, Jake, and I wouldn't know who he's throwing to because that guy hadn't really emerged yet. And all of a sudden he would emerge, and you're like, oh, he threw that guy open. And he anticipated, the anticipation was incredible. And that's something you never see with Zach Wilson right now. He doesn't anticipate. And that's what happened on his interception. You could see that developing. He didn't anticipate it quick enough. And then when he threw it, it was too late. And the guy picked it off. So Matt Ryan, I wouldn't put him in the Hall of Fame, but I think he's a very good quarterback and a very smart veteran quarterback who, they knew they had to get the ball out quick. And the Jets had no sacks in this game. They had 8 quarterback hits, but no sacks because Ryan was just getting rid of the ball so quickly.
And he completed all the boring plays and those dump offs. He did all the little things right to get this game done. 1-4, 27-20, bye week coming up before the Jets will take on the Patriots in Foxborough at Gillette Stadium. Well, joining us next to talk about London, Mims, Jets, everything is Mark Cannizzaro of the New York Post right here on Gangs All Here. All right, joining us now on Gangs All Here for the first time this season is friend of the program, Mark Cannizzaro. He's been following the sports scene in New York, nationally, golf, football, baseball, basketball, curling, everything in between. Follow Mark Cannizzaro on Twitter at NYPost_Cannizzaro. Mark, you covered it from home. Have you been to London? Have you had a London football experience?
I've had a London football experience in the sense of their football, which is soccer, but not American football, Jake. But yes, I've been to London a number of times. And this particular game, because of the COVID restrictions and whatnot, we obviously just had Kaz there this week because of access. Wasn't ideal.
Kaz, break it down. Tell it. You said the food wasn't going to be great. You just said the food was good.
It was much better. What'd you eat? So I got an email from Chris Russell, Jake, who's a loyal listener in the UK here, and he was all over me for my saying I didn't really love the food the last time I came here. So let me clarify what I meant, because he had a good point. The international food here is unbelievable. They have food from everywhere. Every type of food you could ever want, they have here. I had Lebanese food. I've had Indian food here. I've had Italian food here. What I'm not crazy about is the English food. Fish and chips. I can do fish and chips one night. I did it Thursday night. I don't want fish and chips every day. I don't know about can. I just can't do that every day. And as we know, my physician does listen to this podcast, so I really couldn't do it on this trip.
Dr. Corleone.
So the international food is unbelievable here, as good as it gets. So that I had great food here, and that was awesome. I don't know how you feel, Ken, about London.
Now you've just pissed off everybody in England, Kaz. the Indians and Lebanese that are in England maybe are happy with you, but
yes.
So you didn't really wrangle yourself out of your British listener or reader very well with that.
No, he did.
round.
He said to me, he goes, "We've invaded every country in the world that we brought all their food here. It's great." Yeah. And he's
best
right.
Indian food.
The best Indian food you can get.
Amazing.
And I had Lebanese food, which I don't think I've had before, and it was phenomenal. I had it twice. Yeah, it was.
And we also said the stadium name wrong. It's Tottenham. Yeah, I was informed I was saying it wrong. I'm sure Ken knows that because he's a big Premier League guy. But I am not a fan of the English football. So and the atmosphere was great, right? You were tweeting that it was electric. Yeah,
unbelievable atmosphere. You know, they all sang "God Save the Queen" at the beginning of the game. I don't know how much they showed on TV. And then they did the Star Spangled Banner. The singer was at the top of she was on the roof of the stadium, and it was just like it was ridiculous, and it was hopping.
I had vertigo watching that woman do that. I mean, I was like, is she attached up there or something like that? I mean, that was
the nicest stadium I've ever been to. It was like this stadium was ridiculous how nice it is. I mean, they spent a lot of money, but it's crazy how nice it is.
I was still opening my eyes when the national anthem was coming on that early in the morning. But, you were in America watching Ken, and, we were talking about in the Open, Zach Wilson is progression, regression. Well, it was regression on Sunday. He didn't make a lot of the simple throws he's got to make. I don't put all the blame on him, but it was not a good game for him.
No, it wasn't a good game. It wasn't a well-coached game either, I didn't think, Kaz and Jake either. But on either side of the ball, I thought both sides had a bad game. But Zach continues to have problems with the underneath stuff, the shorter to mid-level throws, and I thought the Falcons defense did a very good job. Frankly, they outcoached Mike LaFleur, in my opinion, because they kept Zach in the pocket. They played a lot of two safety deep, kind of forced him to not look down the field, which is where he's had some success. That's where he had his success last week against the Titans, obviously. So I thought they did a really good job of kind of hemming him in a little bit, making him throw balls underneath, which he's not, he just doesn't have the right pace. He's not leading the guys. He's throwing the ball behind them. He's throwing it in the dirt a little bit. And, he needs to alleviate that. Either that or LaFleur is going to have to find a better way, to do something. I mentioned to Kaz, we talked on the phone a little bit earlier. I thought it's cruelly ironic that Adam Gase, who's reviled around these parts for his offensive inconsistencies and issues before he was fired, was like an offensive savant with his scripted plays early in games. That's the only time his offense ever played well. And you wonder, I think I mentioned in my column for tomorrow, it looks like LaFleur is scripting his plays in the dark for these last 4 or 5 weeks because, they've got 0 points in the first quarter. They have 5 first downs in the entire season in the fourth quarter so far through 5 games. So that's just, they got to do something about that. And I think it comes down to coaching. They're going to have to kind of do something to simplify it a little bit for Zach because it's not working.
I've never seen anything like it, Cam. Like the beginning of games, you talk about scripting plays. They practice these plays over and over and over again. Like that should be the best series of the game. And, it's not always going to be. The defense is out there. They're coming in with a good game plan too. But for it to never work is just so strange. And 3 and out. And it's 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. It's like, it's not even get 30 yards and punt. It's 3 and out. Like it just looks terrible.
I mean, listen, they went 3 and out twice and threw an interception, and by the time those 3 series were done, they were down 17-0 already. Yes. So you just can't. As Kaz mentioned, and as Zach mentioned before, it's not even about scoring on your first drive. It's about moving the field position a little bit and keeping your defense on the sideline a little bit. So listen, everybody, we all kind of knew this was going to be a grind of a learning process, and it's not just for Zach Wilson. It's for Mike LaFleur as well. I mean, this is the first time he's scripting plays, as an offensive coordinator. And, they need to find some answers during this bye week because they can't come out and just do the same thing. And, teams are going to see, obviously, what teams have been doing to the Jets, and certainly what Atlanta did. And they're going to do the same thing. I mean, not that Bill Belichick needs any help, which is the next opponent for the Jets. Yeah, they need to figure something out, simplify it. I don't have, I'm not an expert. I don't have the answers, but as Kaz said, this is highly unusual. Most teams have their both best success when they script these plays offensively, and then it becomes an adjustment cat and mouse game. The Jets aren't even getting to that point. offensively.
And LaFleur's got to, we talk about it every episode, the Denzel Mims saga, Ken. I mean, he gets 2 targets, but, they score a touchdown on the drive that he actually had a catch. So what's going on there? Are we going to see him more involved after the bye week? Maybe learn some special teams next week and get him more in the rotation the week after?
Nobody really knows, myself, Kaz, only LaFleur and Saleh know what's going on with this guy.
Becton tweeted, unleash Mims. You got Mekhi Becton calling the plays for him.
I'm sure they love that, Jake. I'm sure
I was at the facility on Friday, and we specifically asked
Thursday.
Thursday before the Jets went to London, and we specifically asked LaFleur, is this a disciplinary thing? What's going on? Why? And they just keep giving us these vanilla answers like, no, it's not discipline, and they're not giving us any specific stuff. We've made a lot of assumptions that he's not a good route runner and all that kind of thing, but bottom line is he's caught 3 passes for 70-something yards or whatever it is. He is catching the ball when they're throwing it to him. They just don't throw it to him that much. They don't play him that much. So I do think they need to do something more with him. But again, this is not the biggest problem for the Jets. This is not why they're 0 for the first quarter. This is just part of, the issue that's taking place. I don't have an answer for it, but I do think that they need to figure a way to incorporate him more in, because he's obviously a skilled player. And when we've seen him have the ball thrown to him, he's made plays for pretty good yardage, even though the first catch he made was on a broken play, in the opener. But whatever, he made the catch, right? So, listen, Corey Davis has more drops than he's had in the last 2 years, I think, already this year. So at least certainly than he had all of last year anyway. So, there are other issues there than Mims, but they do need to figure out how to incorporate him in.
I'll give you one Mims thing I noticed, Jake. And I think this might help people understand a little bit. I don't think he can say it's discipline. It's not like he's not going to meetings or something like that. But we were sitting right behind the Jets sideline. I was probably 20 rows up from the Jets sideline. So we had a good view of everything on the sideline. And at one point I noticed after an offensive series, the position groups break off into different sections on the bench. And the position coach comes over and goes over things with them. So the receivers were all sitting in one area. Denzel Mims is 50 feet away, chatting with somebody. Now, he probably wasn't in on that series because he didn't play much. So his argument is probably, hey, I wasn't even in. Why do I have to listen? But you see other guys, Kenny Yeboah, who's a tight end who didn't, was active for the first time. He's standing behind the bench with the tight ends, listening to everything. Now, that might be false hustle, but I think the coaches want to see that from Mims. I think they'd rather see him sitting there listening and involved, and he's off in the distance. So it's not like he's committing felonies, Jake. That's a misdemeanor in my eyes. And that's something that probably irritates coaches is why isn't he more involved here on the sideline right now?
Now, Kaz, let me jump in for a sec, because on Thursday we had Mims, first time he'd spoken since training camp. It's interesting what you just said there, your observation today, because, and obviously Mims, as all of these guys are, is debriefed by the media relations staff ad nauseum behind closed doors before he comes in. But his theme to what he spoke to us about and repeated on constantly was how much, hey, listen, if I'm not playing, I'm just going to be there to support my guys, blah, blah. Well, what Kaz just mentioned does not sound like he's backing up what he said on Thursday, because if he's halfway down the sideline while the rest of the offense and the rest of his position group is huddled, that's not really what I'm seeing. And I'm not seeing that as backup. I obviously didn't notice it on television.
And I didn't even notice body language at practice. He's the last guy in a drill, just silly. It's not crazy stuff. So that's why everyone's what's going on? What did he do? He didn't do something that broke a rule or anything. I just think coaches want to see a little bit more from him and that stuff. But enough about Denzel Mims. Like Ken said, he's far down the list on problems of this team.
Ken, do you think this turns around? Is this the Jets? Are they going to continue? Because listen, rushing is another thing here we got to talk about. 165 yards on the entire season is their leading rusher with Carter, who's been good when he gets, to the goal line. He scores, which is nice. It's nice to see, when you're within the 2 and the 1, he'll get in the end zone, but that's about it. They don't do much else with the running game, and that's not helping Zach Wilson either.
Listen, it all goes part and parcel to keeping these drives going, which they're just not doing, Jake. And, when you get some sustained drives going, that's when you can get some rushes going and get a running back into a rhythm. But, right so far, LaFleur's offense just has not shown a lot of rhythm. It's been only successful when they've been in scramble mode for a lot of the part. I mean, I didn't cover the Titans game. I was doing the Giants Saints game down in New Orleans last week, but so I can't really speak to that. And that was a closer game, obviously. But 4 out of these 5 games, the Jets have been scuffling from behind the whole time, and because of these slow starts. So it looks like Carter's got some burst, and it looks like they've got some guys that can carry the load and be quality enough runners on this offense for the way they run this offense. They don't need a bell cow in this format of offense that, this kind of Kyle Shanahan thing. So I think it's a matter of getting sustained drives going, because when they are running, they're running fairly effectively.
2 things stand out to me. Their longest run of the year is 17 yards, right? So today was 9. They're not breaking like any long runs, which, I think that's hurting them. And then all we heard about all offseason is the Shanahan system, like Ken said, and how everything's off the run. Everything's built off the run. Play action, all the passing game comes off the run. Like they've got to figure out how to get it going. And Ken's right. They need to sustain drives, but they need to run the ball and get that going to sustain some drives. And I'm not sure if they should be rotating more right now. They're using a lot of Carter. They're using Ty Johnson on third down. Coleman, not as much. LaMichael Pirine is in, mothballs. We talk about Denzel Mims all the time. LaMichael Pirine hasn't been active for 1 game. 4th-round pick, a little different than the 2nd-round pick, but maybe they should try him or something. This offense is not going to work if they can't run the ball. And again, they had 52 plays today, and Atlanta had 75. It's like I said before, it's a miracle that they won last week against Tennessee when Tennessee had 33 more plays than they did. Today, 23 more plays for Atlanta. It's just not a way to win football games.
Yeah, it's interesting, Kaz, because really, I don't want to take away from last week's win, but you just mentioned it. The defense is on the field 100 plays.
Yeah,
and so that win you can almost look at as a bit of a mirage. Credit to them for making the plays and Zach making a couple. Listen, they tried some of those long plays down the field that worked last week. That worked last week. They tried today and they didn't work. So it all looked great when Zach's pointing for his guy, for Corey Davis to get down the field or whatever. But you can almost look at that win as a little bit of a mirage last week. Obviously, they got lucky because there was a missed field goal too.
Yeah,
very makeable.
Well, I said to Jake before, Ken, I think people got a little too giddy off of that game.
Yeah,
it was a win. It was a win, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, they've turned the corner." And then when you actually looked at it, you're like, "How the heck did they win this game?" Like Derrick Henry ran all over them. And they had 33 more plays, and the Titans didn't even turn the ball over. It's a mystifying game.
I think the giddiness to some degree was they actually scored a couple of points on offense. What they have 16 points going into the game, so they were actually competitive. So I think that was
and the throws from Zach. I get those throws are very exciting, but like you and I both know, you can't live off of those kinds of throws. Those are not going to be there every week.
You said it best. These guys, this entire offense is predicated off the run game, and the Jets have told us that. Saleh's told us that. Obviously, LaFleur has told us that. We've seen that system in San Francisco. It's not an offense designed to have the quarterback, slinging it 36 times back there, and especially a guy as raw and as inexperienced as Zach is. So at the end of the day, these lack of sustained drives are killing them. Mostly because they can't get the run is not setting up the pass enough.
Yep.
He's also got to run himself, I think, too. And we talk about this every show. He had a 3rd and 2 today with the whole left side of the field open, and he threw the ball and didn't run it. Wouldn't you like to see some kind of RPO or see him use his leg more than just improvising, but to run for positive yards?
How about the one time he ran and put his head down, though, Jake? Like, I thought when he did that, I'm like, they're never going to let him run.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I thought that DB took it easy on him there, too, by the way. I thought he could have blown him up on that play, and he didn't. He just kind of stuffed him and put him down, But you're right. Listen, look at who's. I'm sure you and Kaz have discussed this ad nauseum, and in previous podcasts. But the guy that's holding the headset or the clipboard behind Zach is he's less experienced than Zach is. So the Jets have left themselves in a little bit of a lurch here. You can't go too crazy with a lot of running with this guy. I get it. You can't play scared, but you can't get too crazy with that stuff because this whole season is based on developing Zach Wilson. If he blows himself up on a RPO run and he's out for 10 weeks, then the season's really a lost year.
Can we talk about one play that drove me absolutely mad, Jake? The roughing the passer call on Quincy Williams early in the game. Now, I'm not saying it would have changed the game, but it's the first 3rd down of the game. I mean, what's the guy supposed to do? What is he supposed to do there? Like, he's a 225-pound man running as fast as he can to tackle someone, and then like, well, you're not supposed to land on him. Oh, like, explain that to me. How you're supposed to do that?
Those are irresponsible calls. And you know what? If that's a play in a close game in the fourth quarter, guys, that's a game-changing play. You know,
and kept him on the field.
As Kaz said, that wasn't going to change the outcome of today's game because the Jets were just dominated. But those plays, to me, are maddening because those are plays where an official can completely change, depending on when it's called, can completely change the outcome of the game.
Completely. And, like, we've all watched a lot of football, right? We do this for a living. We've watched a lot of football. The fans at home, most of them have watched a lot of football. I'm assuming the officials have watched a lot of football. I know what roughing the passer looks like when I see it. And I've accepted now that when you hit someone with their helmet, you're going to get it. When you hit them below the knees, you're going to get it. I kind of understand the rationale. I definitely understand the rationale about the head. The knees, I know, I kind of get that. This idea that you can't land on the quarterback, though, I won't accept it. Like, that is not football. That is not what I've watched my whole life. Like, you can't do it. You can't, like, oh, you're supposed to roll off of them. Good luck when you're that big.
I'm skittish about how slow, how much the replay system slows this football games down right now. But now that we're in the replay world and the replay age, I do believe that those kinds of plays, I don't know how you can differentiate them. I'm not saying pass interference stuff, but I think stuff like that really does need to be reviewable, in my opinion, because those are game-changing, result-turning plays. Again, not today's particular play, but those plays happen all the time in a fourth quarter, and it changes the outcome. And people's livelihoods are affected by that.
Guys, Nathan Shepard though has got to be off the field. I mean, this guy, how many more penalties is he going to commit? I mean, at what point do you just pull him when he's so undisciplined?
Yeah, and it's all different types of penalties he's had. He's had across the board. I again, that's down the list of things with the Jets. But you're right, Jake. You got to pull him, and I'd be curious to look at what his snaps were in this game if they cut them down a little bit, because he killed them with a few of those penalties in the last 2 weeks.
And John Franklin Myers will close with this, gets a contract extension if you want to both just it seems like it's well-deserved, but it was good to see that earlier this week.
Well, I'll just jump in quick because Kaz, you'll have more to say about this. But one thing I didn't like to see about John Franklin Myers was covering the most dynamic player on the field for Atlanta.
They paid him, Ken. They paid him. You got to be a quarterback now.
$55 million.
Maybe they thought that extra money gives them added superpowers or something. I don't know, but listen.
And then Bryce Huff's covering the other tight end.
I know. I mean, it was just hey, listen. As I said in my column for tomorrow's Post, it was the Jets coach just picked a bad day to have a bad day. Listen, that's a great. That's one of the handful of good pickups for Joe Douglas. And was it a little bit of a reactionary thing for having all the 3.5 sacks in the first 4 games or whatever the number was? Perhaps, but if that guy goes on and has 10 or 12 sacks, he's probably he's going to cost him twice that at the end of the year, or they might lose him. And so I thought, why not? I'm an advocate of the Jets keeping their good young talent because they frankly, get rid of too much of their good young talent, over the last however many years I can count, which is too many. So I thought it was a good pick, a good deal.
He had a good year last year. He showed he was coming last year. Like, he showed he was up and coming. And then they actually started negotiating in mid-August when the Jets were in Green Bay was when they opened talks. And so I think the Jets were sweating the 3 sacks. I think it's a weird thing. I think they're happy he's getting sacks, but then the business side of it, they're like, oh man, the price is going up here every time he gets a sack. But, very cool moment on Friday. I'm sure you guys have seen the video of him crying. Just call me Oprah from now on, because I asked the question that made John Franklin Myers cry. I think I have a future as one of these Oprah, Barbara Walters type celebrity interviewers and bringing out emotion from people. But yeah, it was cool. Franklin Myers talking about his son was like, it was hard not to get choked up sitting there, watch the guy like that. And then the British media applauded him at the end, which was awesome. Like, it was just an awesome moment.
I've been in covering a lot of golf over there. I've been in a lot of press conferences where it's a very awkward because the media will clap after a press conference is over, and I'm kind of like, I'm kind of shrinking in my seat, making sure everybody knows I'm on my hands, not clapping. But the one thing I love about Franklin Myers, which I know Kaz does too, is whenever you speak to this guy, he's got a smile on his face, and he appreciates where he is and what he does. And that show of emotion, on Friday was genuine, and it's enjoyable to cover guys like that.
And a lot of the guys, Jake, in the NFL, not saying they don't work hard, but a lot of these guys were the best player in their high school, and they went to some great parochial school that wins national championships every year. Then they go to some huge college, and they're the best player in college. Franklin Myers didn't win a game in high school. His high school lost every single game they played. Then he went to Stephen F. Austin, which isn't quite Alabama or Ohio State. So, fourth round pick by the Rams, has a sack of Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, and the Rams cut him the next year, and he has a foot injury. And I think the Rams, what the Jets think was the Rams were trying to stash him, cut him, stick him on the practice squad, or sort of, do something where they, they'd bring him back when he was healthy. And the Jets went in and grabbed him, and it's been a good pickup for them.
I think I got to end the show there because we had Kaz and Oprah in the same sentence. So I think
that's never happened before.
Never thought I'd see the day. You get a car. You get a car. Kaz.
We make about the same
Oprah.
amount of money, right? Right.
The thing, good Lord.
During my Hawaiian vacation, Jake, I saw Oprah's Maui ranch. It's like 70 acres or something insane like that. So I don't think we're going to be neighbors anytime soon.
Kaz, when your net worth is $2.6 billion, you could own all of Hawaii, I'm pretty sure, at that rate. So Mark Cannizzaro, follow him on Twitter at NYPost_Cannizzaro. Read his stories in the Post, NYPost.com, and Post Sports Plus. Free 30-day trial now. Can, good having you on.
Good talking to you guys. Safe trip back, Kaz.
That'll say goodnight to episode 77, the Chris Jenkins edition of Gangs All Here, our Jets podcast from the New York Post. Thanks to Brian Munguia for helping me out in producing the show. Subscribe to Gangs All Here on Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating. Write in a nice review. We appreciate your support. You can also find us on Spotify, Stitcher, wherever else you get podcasts. For Brian Costello, I'm Jake Brown. It's a bye week for us and for the Jets. So we'll see you next Thursday as we preview their matchup with the Patriots. Enjoy the bye week, folks. Thanks for listening.